Welcome to this installment of Pioneer Webinars. Today, we're going to be talking about how to automate your finances. So my name is Chelsea Risco. I'm going to be your host this evening. Excuse me, I just want to make sure I got this on the right page. Okay, good. As long as you can see my face, we're good. Okay, so I've been with Pioneer for 6 years now. One of those years has been in the branch, and 5 of those years have been in our learning and development department. I really love training our internal employees, and I've really been enjoying getting this opportunity to host these sessions and spend more time talking with you all each month. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So it's been said that financial success is not magic, it's engineering. The key is to build systems and processes that limit undesirable behaviors in your present self and promote desirable behaviors that help your future self. And that is where automation comes in. So this evening, we're going to be discussing what automation is, how you can take your first step to get started, what things you can do to sustain this, and some steps for you to take next. So let's get started by defining financial automation. When you automate your finances, you are setting up your bill payments and savings accounts to be paid every month automatically. So you're basically putting your money on autopilot. By automating your finances, you can ensure that you're paying your bills on time, you're working towards your savings goals, and of course, investing in your future as well, which is also important. So now I want to ask, what things could prevent you from automating your payments and finances? What could you identify as a barrier? So we're going to use the chat box, if you could, please. And just share with me what you think might be a barrier, maybe for you personally, one you've heard from others. Give you guys a second to type. And some of your messages might come just to me. Some of them can come to the panelists and the attendees. You're totally open to choose whichever you'd like. Okay, so afraid that the payments will not go through on time. Yes, that's a really good point. I will admit that has happened to me. Actually, unfortunately, I have had a instance that I did not double check my bill pay, and I did miss a payment, which was unfortunate. But luckily, it was the first time, so we were able to work that out. So it did take me being extra diligent. Let's see if anyone else has anything to share. Question is, what could be a barrier, or what could be something that keeps you from automating your payments and finances? See, the work involved, right? That's a really good point. Yes, the work involved. There is a lot of work up front to do, totally. It is not easy to automate it, to actually set them up, but definitely, once you get them set up and they're on that autopilot, I think it's really worth it. I do believe so. Hopefully you guys agree with me by the end of this session today. Any other thoughts before we move on? All right. Thank you so much for sharing. So like I mentioned just now, the setup might take some time, but once everything's in place, it's smooth sailing, I promise. So let's break it down step by step. The first step is going to be reviewing your finances to determine your goals and what can be automated. So as things currently are in the world, there are very few things that cannot be automated, honestly. Maybe things like a babysitter, smaller businesses who don't utilize technology, or other one-time payments or purchases. However, I think you will find that there are many things that can be automated, like your rent or your mortgage, your utilities, credit cards, loans, even your insurance. So I suggest starting by making a list, and there's one it might look like, of all of your bills, their due date, the amount, and any other notes that you have. So similar to what you see here, you can write that down in a notebook if that's easier for you, or even you can Google bill pay checklist if you're looking for something to work off of. But even, again, you don't have to make this hard. You can just grab a notebook and a pen and get to work, just putting down what bills you have and the information there you see. That'll just kind of help you get started. So next, take a look at your savings goals. Maybe one that you have been doing manually already, or maybe one that you are wanting to start. So recent studies have shown that 40% of Americans don't have enough money to cover a $400 emergency. So no matter how much you make or how secure your overall finances may be, most people could use some extra help and inspiration to save money. And saving money doesn't just happen, right? I think we all know that. One of the best strategies to save money is to make it automatic. When you automate your savings, you are more likely to make saving a consistent priority and to see your savings grow, of course. Plus, when you don't have to move the money yourself, it's more kind of out of sight, out of mind. So you're more likely to leave it alone and let it grow. I don't know about you guys, but when I have put money into savings myself, I tend to move it back just because I remember moving it over, right? So the hope is by doing it automatically, you'll be able to kind of keep it in the back of your mind so that you're not as apt to moving it back to the checking, right? So I want to hear from you guys. What are some things that you are currently saving for or would like to start saving for? You can go ahead and put it in the chat if you'd like. What are some things that you're currently saving for or that you would like to start saving for? So you've got buying a house. Yes, that's a big one, right? That's not just like a little couple months of savings. That's a really, really big one. So I could see how automating could really help you with that, right? A dream new car. Yes. I have that savings account also. I'm really, really trying to get a new car, my dream one. Um, so we're pretty far away though, but as we'll talk about a little bit more, the automation process has really helped. Let's see. Emergency savings. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. If you guys have ever been on a webinar with me, you know that one of the things that I'm always going to preach for is to have an emergency savings, right? Yep. Anyone else? Awesome. Those are great things. Big things too, right? Big goals, not little goals, big goals. But that's great because you guys are totally capable of doing it. All right. So lastly, some of you might be considering or have already set up investment accounts. So that could be like IRAs, education savings, or maybe you are putting more focus on putting money towards your 401k, if that's applicable to you. So that would be the last item for you to review for possible automation. So remember, we've gone through the bills. You looked at all your bills. We've looked at your savings and your goals or savings accounts you already have set up. And lastly, we're going to look at those investments. So I know this seems like a lot of items, but I do want to make it clear. You do not have to automate everything all at once. It's not like all or nothing. After today, I'm going to encourage you guys to choose just 2 or 3 things that you have already not automated and take the time to automate them. Because the point of reviewing all your current responsibilities and looking at your future goals is to have a clear picture of how many things could be easier for you by taking advantage of automation. So don't feel overwhelmed. I know it can be because we really do. I think that's why people don't switch banks. That's why we don't automate things because we just have so many things going on, right? So let's just make it easier. Let's just pick 2 or 3 things that we could automate. All right. So don't feel overwhelmed. Plus, we're going to take some more steps here. So now that you've identified which items you will be automating, the next step is opening the right account. So this starts with your primary checking account. Think of it as like Grand Central Station for your money. So you're going to have money coming in and going out on predetermined schedules. So here's what your financial picture might look like with automation. So check out, we have the payments in there, we have savings, we have investments, we have housing costs. So again, you may have way less than this, and that's totally fine. You might actually have more than this, which is also totally fine. But the idea is to try and make as much of this automatic as possible to help keep you on track and to make your life easier. Also, I want you guys to notice up there, the 401k at the top right, That one comes out before your direct deposit hits. So here's my friendly reminder. I'm always going to be the one advocating for this. I really want to encourage you to be taking advantage of your employer's match on your 401k. So before you get too involved in other investment options like we spoke about earlier, make sure you take advantage of that full match. So again, your employer may match 3%, 4%. If you're lucky, Pioneer matches 8%, which is kind of unheard of. But again, my goal was always, let's get to that 8% match, because that's what's really going to set my future self up for success. And again, it is another form of automation by having that 401k come right out of my paycheck automatically. So there's my second soapbox for the night. Okay, so let's take it back a couple steps and look at what we need to do after getting our checking account in line. So we need to go in and set up our bill pay. So by a show of raising hands, how many of you already use bill pay in your online banking platform? Raise your hand if you already use online banking. Or online. Of course, I'm sure you might use online banking, but bill pay specifically. Anyone? Oh, a couple? Okay. So not everyone. Okay. I mean, yeah, I think I use it for a couple things, honestly. I'm not even all the way automated yet. It really took me making this presentation to feel really encouraged to do it. So I do use the bill pay, but what I wanted to say specifically about bill pay is whether you're a Pioneer member or not, you should have access to bill pay within your online banking. And at Pioneer, this service is free. And what it does is it takes on most of the heavy lifting of paying your bills. So the setup should be relatively easy. You input the billing information like the amount, the address, the due date. And then when that date comes, bill pay will either send off an ACH payment, meaning it's going right from your checking to that account electronically, or it will cut a check to your biller to make the payment. So this is where those due dates come in and the dates that the things are sent out. So you do have to pay very good attention to this. I will make sure to make a little note here for you for that. But what this also means for you is that you don't have to worry about forgetting a bill or making a late payment. As long as you set it up correctly, it's going to do all the work for you. And if you're concerned about having to track your spending in order to avoid not overdrafting or having enough for the payment to come out, I would highly suggest getting a second checking account. So again, at Pioneer, you may have more than one checking share under a single member number. So you don't even have to open a separate, account completely. You could get one checking and then get a second checking. And what you could do is have one of your checkings be the one for bill pay. That's where your payroll is going to get deposited. That's where your bills are going to come out. And then you'll have another checking that you'll use solely for spending. So you can actually even automate that amount, the spending amount, to get sent to that checking share each time you get paid. So that's just a thought too. And that actually brings us to our next point, which is savings accounts. So at Pioneer, there is no limit on how many savings shares you can have. You could literally have 20 if that works for you. Like if that's what you need, you can have 40. Like there is no limit. So this might be a silly question for you guys on the call, but if you were to count them all, how many savings accounts do you currently have? If you had to count, how many savings accounts do you currently have? And it's cool if you only have one. If that works for you, that's totally fine. I'm just curious because I think it's kind of intriguing once we start thinking about setting up many of them. Let's see. You had or four actually, right? Right. Someone else said one. Yep, that's totally fine. You can totally just have one. This isn't like a guilt trip. Not at all. Two. Six. Okay, yep. I'm gonna fess up. I have 8. I have 8. And that's just the way that my husband and I have done our savings account. We like having the savings accounts separate and named separately. So we have one for Christmas. We have one for our future car. It's called Mama's Car because it's for me. We have a bunch of other ones that we use. And so again, create as many as you need in order to really set yourself up for success here. Thank you guys for participating in that too. That's really interesting to know. So let's say you set up your savings accounts. After that, you want to set up those automatic transfers. So you can do that pretty easily through online banking. And I really tried, guys. I really did. I tried to get my hands on a test account so we could jump in there and actually look at setting up a transfer, just because I really wanted to show how easy it is to set up a recurring transfer in your online banking from your checking to your savings. But unfortunately, I was not able to get my hands on that. But I just want to encourage you and assure you, if you have any hiccups with your financials or with your setup of your transfers, I am sure that your financial institution will be happy to help. So again, if one of your 2 to 3 items that you're ready to automate happens to be a savings account, give it a try in online banking. They should be pretty intuitive, but again, reach out if you need any help. And here's the thing, if you automatically deposit funds into your savings, you're more likely to be successful when saving. Like, it just is part of our nature. It's part of our psychology. So it's good information. And in fact, here's another step. If possible, if you can actually set your paycheck to do direct deposit for those savings accounts, you can actually cut out the middleman of the checking account. So if you have an employer where you can actually say, here's where I need my money to go, they can actually send it right to those savings accounts if you set it up that way. So that way you don't even have to set up the transfers in your online banking. It just goes there from your paycheck. So you can set a percentage of your paycheck there if you want. And then, of course, the rest will go to checking so you can pay those normal expenses. Try to save the same percentage of your income every month, if that helps. So 5%, 10%, or whatever you can afford. Just try to keep that consistent. And then also the idea of paying yourself first. I'm hoping you guys have heard of this before. If you've ever come to one of my webinars, you've definitely heard it before. So you lessen the risk of thinking that you can't afford it by doing these things ahead of time, if that makes sense. Because by the time that the money gets into your checking account, you're moving things around. You're like, oh no, I'm going to run out of money. Whereas this way, it's like, oh, here's my deposit. Here's what I have to work with. And then you have that peace of mind knowing that you've already got your savings account covered, your bills covered, and you're good to go. Now, I was going to say, remember out of sight of out of mind kind of a thing, but I don't know that that's the best mantra, because here are some last, I guess, thoughts to leave with you, because we really can't just set it and forget it forever with automation. So here's some tips that can help you sustain this practice. So always leave a buffer in your checking account, especially if you're first starting out. Really make sure that you have some in there. So people find that maybe 25 to 50% of 1 month's expenses is sufficient to kind of be that buffer just at the beginning, or even throughout, just in case anything comes up that surprises you. And remember, it's just going to take you some time to get adjusted to this. So just make sure you have that cushion just in case. Also, pay your bills and then pay yourself first. So we just talked about that. With automation, this will be done for you with bill pay and transferring money automatically to your savings. That way, you don't have to choose between spending or saving. You're just able to spend what's left after saving, which I think is great, because then I don't have to make the choice, because I'm probably not going to make the right choice. Let's be honest. And then make sure you check back in and reassess every once in a while, especially when bills change or you get a raise. You can actually add more towards the savings that you're doing, or maybe your priorities and goals change. So just keep in mind, once your finances are automated, they should be pretty easy to make adjustments to as needed. And again, reach out to your financial institution if you need any help with that. And remember, you don't have to do this all at once. Just, again, find a couple items and take your first steps. So I know this is a shorter session, you guys. It's kind of just to the point, honestly, and I just wanted to give you guys just a few takeaways. But in closing, I just want to say, automating your finances might take a little bit of time to set up, but it's totally worth it. Once you have things all set up, you're less likely to slip up on your financial goals, miss payments. So remember the key steps when you automate your finances, such as setting up that direct deposit, which you guys, we talked about that before, automating those savings accounts and the bill pay. Important part 2 to add in is creating that budget so you know what's going where and how much. So even once you get that money at the end that you're able to spend, maybe you still choose to save some for something else. I mean, you really are in control of your finances. I really want to encourage you and empower you to know that, like, you can make the most of what you have, whatever that may be. So I hope you guys feel encouraged by that. But I really want to encourage you to start automating your finances as soon as you can, because this will help you optimize time. It's going to help you avoid late fees, and it's going to start working towards your financial success.